Well, as you can see, we're still here at Beverage Forum. We're still in the pod. The forum is going on all around us, and I'm super excited to sit down with my new friend Pedro and hear all about sort of you and your brand. So what would be great is, rather than me butchering your introduction, I'd love to hear you give everybody your introduction.
Yeah, cool. So, Dino, thank you very much for having me. Pedro, as you can hear, I have a bit of a funny accent.
Is it Alabama or what?
Exactly, a bit further east. So it's European. I'm from Switzerland originally.
Oh, Switzerland, amazing.
Exactly. So is
How's
the product.
Switzerland guy with a name like Pedro.
Yeah, that's where the story gets complicated. So I have Brazilian roots, German roots. So my full name is Pedro Schmidt, who grew up and still lives in Switzerland. So it's kind of a complicated.
Do you speak any Portuguese?
Yeah, I do.
That's a tough one. As a Spanish speaker, Portuguese is tough.
Yeah, the other way around is a bit easier, but yeah. Well, and again, thank you very much for having me. So actually we are a Swiss brand doing very well in Switzerland. It's already quite big within the recovery market. We are the clear number one.
How long has the brand been out for?
So I launched the product in 2017. And we grew gradually to where we are today, basically available at all supermarkets, convenience stores, and gyms. It's primarily targeted to athletes, but that's actually not how the brand started. If you want me to go,
I want the story. Yeah. So, because what I was going to say is, how did you come up with it? Why this space? What were you doing when you decided to do this? Like, take me on the journey.
Yeah, sure. So I have a
little closer.
Yeah,
you can pull it closer to you if you want.
Oh yeah, I think that's more convenient.
There you go.
Here we go. So I have a background in pharmaceutical sciences. I graduated and first went into the pharmaceutical industry. First was responsible in hepatology, then I moved to oncology.
Well, for me, that's such a relief because I've been talking to other guys who are like in charge of formulations. Like, I have a business degree. See a scientist is refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, it has pros and cons. For me, the product, the scientific background of a product is super important. And that also comes with some compromises you need to take. For instance, taste is something that people need to get used to, but it tastes in a certain way, not because it's from a business decision, it was the best thing to do, but because of efficacy and functionality decision. And the product got so big in Switzerland because, well, it's basically used by all the big sports teams, all the athletes. We supply it to several thousand pro athletes throughout Europe. Thus, it's quite something unique. But
can we just talk for a second about the package? Because I just got into your drink recently, and one of the things I like about it so much is it's so like experiential, like the fact that you're activating it, things like that. Could you tell us about the cap?
Yeah, of course. So it's also, well, the cap, which is pretty cool. It seems kind of a gimmick, but it's much more than that. So the formulation that we have contains some very sensitive ingredients that cannot be bottled. It's just not chemically stable. So that's why it needs to be separated in this dual chamber system.
So it would lose efficacy or flavor if it was sitting in the shelf wet, but since you're mixing it just before consumption, you're getting the best.
Exactly. So it's about efficacy. It would lose its functionality, basically. Yeah.
Is it because of the half-life, or now I'm pretending to be a scientist?
Well, half-life, I mean, that's basically just a term to determine how stable something is, and, well, it boils down to that, basically. Yeah.
Got it. And then the flavor's actually so good, but without being something I put my finger on, how do you describe the flavor?
It's all naturally flavored. It's a combination of lemon and grapefruit. Yeah.
Got it. I'm a big citrus guy, and I'm like, I can't put my finger on it, but it's actually very pleasant.
It was a challenge to get where we are now. It took us, I think that's now the 5th iteration. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, the flavor side of things didn't have a very high priority. And when talking to the business guys, that's when it got interesting. They said, well, you have to get rid of this ingredient or that ingredient just because it's so difficult to mask it with natural flavoring. And that's where my pharmacist in me came out and say no way. So I rather keep it simple, but we managed to get where we are today. We collaborate with some of the biggest companies in the world already, a company called Fimerich, which was recently acquired by DSM, and together with them we were able to, I think, do something pretty decent at least.
It's interesting. Well, I also appreciate the Swiss precision. In the U.S., we always have either a 5 or a 0 for calories. So to see 96, I appreciate the precision. And the product itself, I'm familiar with cortisol because I feel like I'm constantly fighting my cortisol levels. Walk us through sort of cortisol and how the product can help reduce those cortisol levels.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I need to just jump a bit further back just to give the context of everything. So,
of course, yeah.
Well, when I was still a student at the university, I obviously, as many students do, they like to go out and party a lot. So at the same time, I was always very health conscious. Did a lot of sports, still do, and this kind of duality of things. Drinking alcohol, doing something which is obviously unhealthy, at the same time being health conscious. I was just looking to find a solution that helps me to recover quicker, to protect the body and all that. And that's how I started actually researching in the field, reading clinical studies and discovering bioactive ingredients that have shown to be beneficial in that department. And actually, that's how the product was then launched in 2017 as a hangover product. And as many people can probably comprehend, is that alcohol does all sorts of bad things to your body. It's a toxic chemical, basically. And one thing that it does is increase your cortisol. And eventually the product got some traction in Switzerland, became more and more popular, and that's when athletes and eventually also professional athletes started approaching us and telling us how well they feel when using it, not in the hangover case, but just in post-recovery. And that's when we realized what the true potential of the product is. And most specifically cortisol. And you told me you like to road cycling. Mm-hmm. That's definitely one of the sports that's quite strenuous and elevates your cortisol level. Which is actually great while you're working out, because it's a stress hormone. Your body's like in this stress mode, run faster, mobilize all energy you have. But obviously, when you're then recovering, that's something that's counterproductive to your recovery. And lowering cortisol is, I would argue, the single most important recovery step you can do when you work out. And that's actually what was then discovered by these athletes, how well they feel when using the product post-recovery. And eventually we did 3 clinical studies, trials, which yielded significant results and all that. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because so many people are looking for 0-calorie options, but if you really want to be sports nutrition or sports supplement, it's got to have something in it, right? It's got to have nutrition. Like, you need something to make it work. So describe for me, if you could, the layperson, like what makes it work.
Yeah, so that's super important. Recovery obviously isn't just one bioprocess. It's a combination of many codependent bioprocesses, and one of the bioprocesses, probably from a timing perspective, the most important one is to restore your muscles with glycogen, which basically is sugar. So a certain amount of sugar is required if you want to get an efficacious product. And Kayaks, as you can look at the list of ingredients, is a quite complete combination, and it contains
it's one of the most interesting labels I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and every single ingredient obviously has a very specific purpose. Targeting most specifically the cortisol is a ingredient called phosphatidylserine, which had shown in several...
That word with your accent is magic.
Yeah, try to use AI to do the auto caption. I think it's going to be difficult.
Got it. And explain to me the name, because the name is so cool. Like, how'd you come up with the name?
Yeah, so basically, again, when we launched the product back in 2017, it was supposed to be a hangover recovery drink, and in German, the word hangover has kind of a urban an urban name called Kater, and it's just an abbreviation of Kater, X, so the Latin for go away, hangover, go away. So that's how we came up with the name, but it was never supposed to be part of the name. It's I think something that came up in the brainstorming of the name.
Well, it's so hard to trademark things. Like, I always hear entrepreneurs like, all the good ones are taken. So you've really got to find a way to create either a new phrase or something like that. That's why Mark Rampolla, my friend who formed Zico, he's like, we just made up that word. He goes, no one had made up words. And this kind of feels that way. And it also gives it a kind of a sciencey vibe, especially if you don't know the German background. Exactly.
And I think also this is a consequence of my background in pharmaceutical science and within the pharmaceutical industry. Obviously, drugs and medicines, they all have very scientifically sounding names, but those are just fantasy names, basically. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting to me too is the not only just the sort of the naming convention, but I also love the packaging. So, question: when you pivot from kind of a hangover cure to more of like a wellness and recovery supplement, it feels like it broadens quite a bit, right?
Yeah. So, definitely. I think the core always stayed the same. It's we primarily emphasize our scientific DNA, and whether that's hangover recovery or that's post-workout recovery, that's not a huge difference there. But the more superficial communication part obviously changed completely. And also now in Switzerland and in Europe in general, we are a dedicated sports nutrition product. So that's very similar to Coca-Cola, which was launched by a pharmacist in the pharmacy to treat actually or to calm down women's. So unpolitically correct this is today, but it was against hysteria in women, and obviously today, it's
also a cure for morphine addiction.
Exactly. So this is
Got it. So I imagine the product is really widely available in Switzerland. I've never been, but I'm assuming Switzerland's a pretty small country. What's the plan to take over America?
Yeah, so we launched last year. Actually, we run a test last year. We were able to collaborate with Earth Bar in California.
Yeah,
exactly. So they have 34 locations across California, primarily in Los Angeles, obviously, and most of their locations are within Equinox, which I think for us is a great fit, targeting that.
My wife's there 6 days a week, so shout out Equinox.
Perfect. And was a market test to see how well the product does with very limited to no marketing at all, and it did extremely well actually at some locations. For instance, at Sunset, their location at the Sunset, and the other one at Hollywood, kayaks became one of the best selling products on the shelf, and at the same time as a ready to drink, it's the most expensive product on the shelf. It goes for $7.99. As a reference point, Celsius costs $3.99 per can. So the test was obviously extremely successful. They now have listed us, we got a fixed listing at all their California locations. Now we are also listed in New York City. And that was a very important starting point to then approach investors and do a Series A round where we just closed $5 million US. Also with some strategic investors from the US that's now allowing us to roll out our marketing campaign. Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, I love the idea that you did a test with under 50 stores. Like, so many times we see entrepreneurs that they become opportunistic, right? Because there's a famine mentality. And it's like, I have an opportunity to do 200 stores across 18 states. And it's hard to craft the outcome when you do something like that. So that requires a tremendous amount of discipline, is my experience.
Yeah, thank you. But I mean, also for those guys that have the opportunity to launch at 200 points, it's always when you're starting from scratch, obviously you have to work with what you have, like with the hands you have been dealt with. But obviously, coming from Switzerland, having this big success in Switzerland, I think also we had the opportunity to approach the partners that we really wanted to approach, and that was a beautiful experience.
That's a high-end consumer experience for sure. Yeah. What's the route to market? Like, how do you get to Equinox stores? I wouldn't even understand where to start.
So actually, I started visiting the US back in 2022 to really understanding the market, getting contacts, working with people, and eventually we found the right partners. It's a sales and branding agency called Beyond Brands, and they helped us out with their contacts into Earth Bar and Equinox. Yeah.
Got it. And then, but as far as like the actual shipping, you don't have a distributor? Are you using like just UPS to stores, or?
No. Now, obviously, also part of this market test was not only the sales part to see does it work.
So Earth Bar's distribution, so the same way they're getting product.
So we have now a warehouse in the US, and now opening a second one in Pennsylvania. So we have one in LA and one in Pennsylvania, and we are now also scaling our operations within the US. Yeah.
I mean, it's a super unique product, and to your point, it's got a really premium price point. what are the sort of like products? Like a lot of times you go and say it's this but better, or it's that but lower calorie. Like what are the allegory? I mean, it's not body armor. Like what are the similarities with sort of mainstream products?
Yeah, I mean that's the challenge and also the opportunity that we have, because there is no real direct competitor on the market. It's a post-workout recovery drink targeting cortisol reduction. So it's a bit difficult to find a direct competitor. This here obviously is a ready-to-drink. We also have a ready-to-mix version. There, I would say the closest competitor, or let's say a company that has maybe similar principles. Yes, that's it. I would say would be AG1.
Oh, interesting.
Very science-based. Also, they target cortisol reduction through ashwagandha, which has some significant downsides. So, but I think, that would be something comparable.
That's really cool, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely put a lot of stuff in it, which is awesome. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a big wind up here. Jeffrey can edit this part out. Anything else you want to cover?
Maybe. When is it going to be shown or published? Because we are about to communicate a big investment from MFG, Media for Growth. They manage media with the Sinclair Broadcast Group and NewsCorp.
That's incredible. So I can embargo it as long as you want, but my plan was to release it in probably 2 weeks. But if you want me to hold it longer, I can hold it longer.
Okay, no, 2 weeks should be fine, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then let's get back in with kind of 2 more questions, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, with respect to cortisol, so many people I know are trying to fight inflammation, especially as you get older. Is there a sort of a connection between cortisol and just general inflammation? Yes, definitely. So what makes it so difficult to manage cortisol is the fact that it's such a generic response of the body. And when you have some inflammation, it increases your cortisol. At the same time, increasing cortisol also reduces the body's ability to handle the inflammation, basically. And one of the clinical trials that we run with a university in Spain has shown to not only lower cortisol, but also to lower some very specific inflammation markers. Yeah, because my days as an athlete, I was looking at things like quercetin and all these other sort of remedies for inflammation. I feel like everybody I know is suffering from inflammation. Generally, mine was sugar induced. So now that I've cut sugars out, I realize I need another weapon against inflammation. Yeah. So then, sort of last question. What are the big updates? Like, what's the big news on the horizon for the brand? Yeah, so as already covered, we had a great market test in the US, and now we're going pretty big. We are hiring people. We are launching on a bigger scale, and instrumental for that launch is going to be the investment that we just have signed with MFG, Media for Growth. That's a Congratulations.
VC. Thank you very much. They manage media from Sinclair Broadcast Group, Televisa, and also NewsCorp. NewsCorp, obviously the news portals like New York Post and Wall Street Journal. Sinclair Broadcast Group, they have TV channels like the Tennis Channel, also the Tennis Channel platform, and Televisa, which, they have dozens of different TV channels which are going to be airing our TV spots basically over the summer. So we can expect to see a lot of kayaks over the next few months. That's cool. Well, and I lied. I had one more question pop up. So many of these sort of sports nutrition plays are really kind of influencer driven. Are there athletes partners with this, or are you on the lookout for someone? So we have actually many different European influencers. For instance, which you might find interesting, Tudor Pro Cycling Team, which is doing pretty well. Yeah, I'm familiar with it actually. That's amazing. Yeah, so they are big fans of the product. They use it obviously. It's in a barter deal situation. We never pay for our partnerships. We just supply the product for free, and they actually pay it by just showing it on Instagram and whatnot. We also have paying clients like some of the biggest teams in Europe, like PSG and so on. But obviously now this is also going to be one of the marketing instruments we want to implement in the US, and we are looking out for athletes looking amazing to promote us. Yeah. Well, that's incredible, dude. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really liked the product just when I saw it, because it's so different from what we see in the US, and the cap technology I think is so breakthrough. I wish you a ton of success. Cool. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks Dino. Pedro. I appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.